World Financial Group offers entrepreneurs from all backgrounds the opportunity to start their own business on a level playing field. Dr. Onyona Woodhouse, receiving the WCM Wall Street Pioneer Award by the United Black Wall Street of America, Inc., is one of those entrepreneurs.
I see WFG and TFA as a place where African Americans with an entrepreneurial mindset can flourish. And the bonus, we help families and serve the communities across the country.
To learn more about us, go to worldfinancialgroup.com.
We are the sons and daughters of the soul. We are resilient and forever forward-thinking. We ask for nothing else than the opportunity to live and to create the lives that we were meant to live. We want nothing but an equal chance at options and possibilities. The same possibilities and options to live out our potential as our fellow man. We want to be heard, understood, and expressive in our reality. We are the future. We are the creative. We are here.
This is Kia Rogers, and you're listening to Urbanology with my dad, Tony Rogers, on WHCR 90.3 FM New York.
Good afternoon. It's Tony Rogers here, your host for Urbanology, the Art of War. I hope all is well with you. Spring is not feeling like it's here, but it's here. So pretty soon it's going to be warm, and I love warm weather. Hope most of you do, even though we have not had such a cold winter, but nevertheless, spring and summer are my favorite months. I hope all is well with everyone. And this show will have two interesting guests. I think that you will be able to learn a lot about a place where you could get some very good food, and then you'll learn about some art from a Harlem resident who has done art for a number of different venues and individuals. So my first guest is the owner of a Swahili restaurant. Many people have heard of the great food that's there. He has a number of different businesses, but the Swahili restaurant is one that many people say, yeah, I heard about that. So he was on the show it was some time ago, maybe a year ago or two. And they were developing it into what it is now, which is wonderful. There's a program that they're going to develop pretty soon dealing with health and wellness. So I thought it would be a good idea to bring my brother back. We always talk about the African diaspora and how we have to start becoming closer with our brothers who are here and who are also across the big water. So please give a warm welcome to my guest, Kevin Onyona.
Thank you, Tony, for having me. Thank you for that warm introduction. And
Well,
thanks for
Kevin,
having me back.
it's always a pleasure, brother. You know, whenever I see you, I get hungry.
And that's a good thing, right?
Yes, for a restaurant tour. Tell us a little bit, Kevin, about uh, yourself first before we get into the restaurant. Give us a little information about your journey because there are new listeners, I mean, viewers and listeners, but just so that they can know the face behind the businesses.
Yeah, so my name is Kevin Onyona, and born in a place called Homa Bay in Kenya. Homa Bay was a small little dusty town, mainly composed of teachers. So we had quite a few schools, and this was the only place where there were banks, so teachers could receive their salaries. So my dad was a teacher as well, so he made Homa Bay a home, and he married my mom, who was also not far away from that side of the country. And so I had a grandmother closer, but my father was on a completely different. My father, mom was far away from Homa Bay. So it meant that every so often when we were out of school, we would be with grandmother at home in the village. And the village is really who raised me, more so because it's in the village that I learned how to cook,
Mm,
watching grandmother and how she would boil fish for 9 hours and the fish doesn't break. And she would put it in the morning before she went off to the farms. And she had a technique she used because we used the most rudimentary but the most flavorful um, items to make fish. And it was a pot, and she covered it simply with the banana leaves, and then she would sit the fish there, and all she needed to do was throw some little um, salt and a little bit of onions, and she would then use the fire to make that broth so good you won't need the fish. And
mm,
we eat it with, everybody knows fufu, and our part we call it ugali. So I learned actually how to use fire as a component of flavor,
mm,
which is something that a lot of people haven't mastered that art. And here's why. The reason why fire is a component of flavor is if you remember how our grandmothers cooked. They let food simmer and let the flavor come out of the food. They
mm.
didn't put too much. It was very simple, but the food tasted beautifully because the food has its own flavor, but the fire is what brings that flavor out. I knew somehow one day I was going to have to teach this to.
You're making me hungry, brother. So you took that knowledge and you brought it here, and you started opening up restaurants
Yeah,
using some of the same techniques.
yes. So my grandmother cooked two different ways, which is the first one is because we didn't have refrigerators, and we didn't have fridges and stuff like that. So what you do is you take your food, you take whatever protein. If it's fish, you dry the fish and you let it smoke out and you keep it for a rainy day.
Hmm.
And you do the same with the meats. So for the most part, our brothers from West Africa, they've kept that traditional way of cooking, which is we smoke almost everything and use that as our base. On the
Mm.
other hand, my grandmother also would run to the fields and whip up very clean, quick vegetables and bring it home, and let's take the chicken, sorry, and kill the kitchen and the chicken and really serve fresh, just like that. So I learned both ways to be able to cook with food that is preserved because of course we use a sun because that was our preservative, and just sprinkle salt on it and let it dry out, and then bring out that food, the flavor later on. And that's why sometimes when you go to some of our homes, there's a little punch on our dishes that are dried, but the flavor in those in that food still is beautiful. But you have to go beyond that little punch. You know what I mean? So I actually learned both. But so what I adopted, which is what we do at Swahili Village, is to cook it fresh. So basically, you enjoy very fresh food when you come to Swahili because it's actually scratch kitchen. We cook it from fresh into your plate. It didn't come easy though. Like everything else. It's a labor of love.
Hmm.
But here we are.
What's the address to Little Swahili?
So the one that's closest to you is 1 Center Street, Newark, New Jersey, right across from NJ, New Jersey Performing Arts Center, which is called NJ Park. And then, of course, we have one in downtown DC on M Street. That one is on 1900 M Street, Northwest DC. And then we have another one in Maryland, which is 10800 Rhode Island Avenue in Beltsville, Maryland.
And your recipes are basically the same in each one? I remember we had this conversation before.
Yes. I mean, now we're starting to adopt some of the, because you can't run away from our culture. So I've had to introduce, of course, jollof rice since the last time we spoke. We've introduced red snapper since the last time we spoke. We've introduced salmon because now that culture must now come together where my goal really is to be able to present the African cuisine into the communities where we live in a way that brings us all together in a conversation. And I notice the best conversation is the one you have around food.
Now, you got a lot of your talent from home and family. Did you go to a culinary school, or did you just take that and start focusing on restaurants when you came to America?
No, not at all. I was actually not a trained chef, but I came to America and I joined the corporate world like every other student that comes to America. And I worked for Home Depot Home Services for close to 9 years before this whole thing of restaurants really, wore me up and wore me out. And I said, I got to do something about this good food that is not being talked about and it's not being showcased in a way that speaks well to our communities. I mean, there's a way that you must be able to introduce your community, the communities that you're in, to your cuisine. And we see how the Japanese did it. And now we have hibachis everywhere. We have sushi. The Mexican did it. Now we have everywhere you go. You have our tacos. All the communities came into America using food.
Yeah,
Including our neighbors Ethiopians, who is very apologetic about their injera bread, and everybody knows about injera. So food is a very strong diplomacy item.
it's
And
very important in many different ways. And also, when I went, for instance, to Senegal, it was interesting, but not surprising, because obviously, when you talk about food from the South, a lot of that was through the slaves who went to the South and taught the Southerners certain types of things to eat. But I was really pleasantly surprised when I went to Senegal and some of, I mean, some of the indigenous in villages, and they were making stuff that my grandmother. I,
Yes.
I said, "Wow, it's interesting how food traveled, and the knowledge of food and the knowledge of how to make food uh, travel from Africa throughout the world because we were taken throughout the world. So
Mhm.
uh, I think that the idea is that's part of the diaspora. We was talking about that.
Yes.
Um, we're all over the universe based on conditions that were not. All things happen for a reason,
Mm.
from a spiritual standpoint. And if we all, the diaspora, I mean, the African diaspora, which sometimes can be controversial because technically, so from a scientific standpoint, everybody came from Africa. So no matter whether you're European,
Yes.
blind, blue eyes and blonde hair, or black as coal, you all have the same type of DNA.
Yeah.
We're all brothers under the sun, brothers and sisters under the sun, based on the way things have started out in this span that we're dealing with as far as the human race. But for the black and brown individuals throughout the world, there has been a way of kind of keeping us from being connected in many different ways, whether it's not showing up or fake news about what it is. But thanks to Soul City and other medias, the social media opportunities, we're beginning to see who are like us and who are not like us. And that's in every situation.
Mhm.
But Kevin, you have really been uh, in the forefront of allowing for cultures to come together. Matter of fact, we talked last time about the Harlem Tourism Board going to your homeland at some point. So we have to, bring that conversation back into play to kind of, allow for people to understand, just as in Senegal and in Ghana, what the real people in Kenya
Yeah.
know, do and how they function. But the restaurant, as I said before, give the address or the phone number of some or the website for it, and if we have it, we can put it up on the screen also because, as you say, I have to tell my son where in Maryland where's the restaurant. We'll talk about this offline because my son is in Baltimore, so he's between both of them. So I
Yes.
have to make sure that he's aware of it. Escaped me before as relates to making sure that he was alerted to the fact that if he wants some good food, it's worth taking a drive.
Yeah, it's half an hour away from Baltimore or
Yeah,
into the city on your way to DC. We're in Beltsville around College Park area.
yeah. But
So yeah.
and if we have what's the website for the restaurant?
It's www.swahilivillages.com.
And okay, SwahiliVillage.com.
Swahili
And
Villages. Villages.
villages.
Yes,
Uh-huh.
villages.com. Yeah.
And again, for those who are really, I mean, as I said before, talking to you, create. I have Yada put the tilapia is a great fish.
Yeah. Yeah.
Somebody
Tilapia.
told me that they lied
I
on
was
the
shocked.
fish.
I was really shocked when some customers told me that this is man-made fish,
Uh,
and I sat down and I told them my story. I was born around Lake Victoria on a freshwater lake in Kenya,
uh-huh.
and I fished tilapia on a daily, and I don't know who made it because I've not found out the person who made that fish. That fish is a freshwater fish made grows in fresh waters. And in Lake Victoria, clearly, it's a wild. It's one of the largest freshwater lakes in the world. Actually, it's the source of the River Nile.
Mm.
Yes. So tilapia is a big part of our fish within the sources of the fresh rivers and fresh lakes. So it's tilapia. I remember the Nile perch. I remember there are all manner of fish that is found only in freshwater. Tilapia is one of them. And I think tilapia is one of the fish that can take flavors of any. I remember telling you my grandmother would boil it for 9 hours of using very rudimentary, but the broth would be breathtaking. And it takes a lot of different ways that you can make tilapia. And for us, when we make tilapia, we only eat the head because that is where we get the most amino acids. That's what we are taught, and that's the truth. So we only go for the head, and we are good. But yes, the tilapia is a freshwater fish, and it's a fish. It's a good fish. Tastes great. For any one of you who have tasted my tilapia, none of you has come out to tell me that the fish did not have absolutely good flavor, and very versatile too.
It's interesting when you say boiling for 9 hours. That takes a lot of care to you got to stay on it before, because if you do it too long or not long enough, it creates a problem.
So let me tell you, it was 3 stones, right? If you've gone to the village of in Senegal, they still cook the same. So they have 3 stones under which the firewood goes through, right? And there's a pot, and the pot is covered with the leaf after you put the fish. And she would ask me, Kevin, go add some fire, which means you're going to push the sticks back into the fire and remove the stick when the fire is up. And you said, Kevin, go and remove. So I got to understand how she was controlling this fire, that at some point it needed a little bit more, and at some point you just let it cook for a while, and then you go back and remove it if it's flaming. And slowly but slowly, I got to understand how that component of flavor worked from my grandmother, and worked on that fish without ripping the fish apart. Because if you don't know, if you use heat badly, it will rip that fish. It'll completely shred it off. But used well, it stays completely intact until you have been the one to take out that fish from the scale. It's a thing of beauty. I can talk all day about it. But yes.
You are doing a program. I know that you've done a number of things besides having a great place to eat, but you've been able to allow for your restaurants to have a community responsibility as far as groups and organizations and working with groups. I understand that you're putting together a program soon. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Oh, yes. Of course, Swahili Village presents itself at a very high level in the city of Newark. And we thought, now that we are in this community, what can we do with the community together to solve some of the community problems? And so we realized that one of the bigger challenges is access to healthcare. And so we're going to use our restaurant as a community resource. So once a month, we will have professionals in the area of medicine and wellness come to Swahili Village to offer and to give services to our community members who may need them. One of them is that we were talking to the Cancer Society of New Jersey and the wider New York area. We're going to have some screenings we do there, especially the mammogram screening. We already have partners offering to bring mammogram truck once a month. And from the statistics they're telling me is that they're very sure that if they screen 200, they will find maybe 1 or 2 cancer patients at an early stage, that means their lives can be saved. So when you look at it, you just save two lives. What better can be known to that you actually saved a life or two
Hmm.
lives every time we screened. So we offer, because we have enough room, we have enough spaces, and we are working with the city to help us manage that process. Along, of course, with just even dental, even just a simple thing as, I guess, as blood work. Sometimes we find our community members who cannot be able to access them. So we're going to allow for that to start happening.
And when is the date? What's the date for the next one? It's coming up soon, I believe. Right?
Yes, we're still working with our partners, but we within the next 4 weeks, I want to get started. I want to get started as soon as possible.
Mhm.
Yeah. Alongside that, of course, when we are in our community, I am very passionate about food. I also want to be able to be able to talk to our community members, especially the youth, who, for the most part, may not think much about the restaurant industry, because they don't see most of us owning these spaces like the one we own in Newark, New Jersey, even in DC. When so I tell people that this is my restaurant, I own this restaurant.
Hmm.
They don't believe it. They think I'm a front or someone. So I have to start talking more and encouraging people that yes, we can actually own this restaurant, and you too can own a restaurant. And of course, we talk about this food exchange now, and that's a big area of opportunity to be able to teach our young boys and girls, and of course our community members on exchange of how we learn to know how to make different foods from the continent, because at some point I figured the communication there was not managed very well. It was managed by our own conversation. It was managed by somebody else's
Mhm.
conversation. We need to get back to speaking with ourselves, and having these conversations around food, because food is powerful. Food can separate communities. We know that, and
Yeah.
food can also bring communities together. So how about we intentionally use that space to bring us together?
Mhm. Food and music are
Music, yes,
the two major ambassadors for goodwill throughout the world. Wherever
definitely.
you go, if you get good food, you whatever culture it might be, or even music. If you hear something, you might not know what it is, but you can feel something.
Your body, yeah, you feel your body telling you there's something. I'm receiving something good. That is, you start moving. Yeah,
Yeah.
and food does the same thing. So yeah, that's what we've done. If you come to our restaurant, we introduce you to the African music, to Afrobeat, to that cultural beats that we are so good at, and we so enjoy so much.
Well, again, Kevin, thank you so much for taking some time on SwahiliVillage.com. You should go there. Make some. As I said before, I'm hungry now. I might maybe see you later on. I don't know. But the bottom line is, we're always happy to have you on to talk about your progress and the things that you're doing with your restaurants. And I know you've been talking to Jasmine and Matt McCoy for HTB to uh, come to visit you in your home in Kenya. So we're looking forward to continue those things and maybe do a broadcast from there when we get there. So, uh,
Yeah, yes,
but
yes. We know that next week we have Kenya Tourism Board
mhm.
in New York, so I'm going to make that
Yeah,
happen.
you should develop the connection for us so that we can have an interface and help.
Tony, that Kenya makes its own foreign income earnings from tourism. We are a big tourism country,
Yeah.
and no intention. That's how we preserved our elephants, and we preserved our animals in the
Mhm.
natural space, so that visitors can come and see what we've done. And we have loads and loads and loads of people traveling from Europe to come but we have not done well enough with exchanges like, you know, tourism of, New York Tourism Board and Kenya Tourism Board getting together to know each other and inviting each other for a conversation. And so that's also part of what Swahili Village is going to be doing as well.
Well, like Senegal and Ghana, one of the things that we were trying to do is to make sure that we allow for African and Caribbean Americans to understand that they can go home and be welcome at home, and it's not as difficult as possible. So that's really part of that agenda that we have, and of course, we would like to include Kenya to that focus, and we'll work. But we'll talk offline. I know Jasmine has been in contact as well as was Matt for the Kenya Tourism Board, so that we can, make that relationship. And I'll have to try to catch up with you at some point at the restaurant to eat some of that fish.
Yes. Always appreciate you, brother.
Well, thank you so much, Kevin. I appreciate you taking some time, and we'll be in contact. But Swahili villages, that's where you want to go if you want to have some really good cultural food. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
brother, for your help.
Thank you, Tony.
And again, it's it's interesting as it relates to, as I had mentioned before, when you talk about the diaspora, how much alike we are, but without having the understanding of travel and seeing how much alike we are, we don't really know. My next guest is a brother who has come to Harlem. He grew up in New Orleans, and he's a artist, a very distinguished artist. He has murals, one in a number of them throughout uh, I know the country. He actually was a resident artist at Harvard teaching certain types of artwork. We'll talk a little bit about that. And he recently did a mural celebrating the 30th anniversary of Do the Right Thing with Spike Lee. So Paul has uh, claimed Harlem as his home and has done a number of work there, as I mentioned at the behind the uh, studio. We look for different studio galleries, but uh, Paul's work is all over. His gallery is the community in a sense. So I'd like for you to welcome Mr. Paul Dio.
Right, man. Thank you for that introduction, man. Appreciate it.
Well, Paul, my brother, it's good seeing you. And as I had mentioned before, you have made your journey from good old New Orleans up into this part of the woods and made your mark. Give us a little information about your journey, because obviously you've gone through many things. I remember you was talking about Katrina was what kind of got you out of Orleans, but tell us how you were able to uh, pivot, put yourself together, some of the work that you've done in Harvard, some of the work that you're doing now. Let people know who you are and what you've been doing.
Sure, sure. Yeah, my name is Paul Deo, Paul Dio, and I lived in New Orleans for a minute. I was born in Brooklyn, and what brought me back up to New York, Harlem, is Hurricane Katrina. And when Katrina hit, my sons and I evacuated back to New York, and I started growing from there. And I was working in the film industry. I'm the first black in the film industry, in a film union, the IATSE 478 in New Orleans. I'm the first.
Mm.
Yeah, just based on my training working on the film Malcolm X, I learned so many skills that I was able to join the union, which is something that Spike Lee, whose birthday is actually tomorrow, us filming on March 19th. he's brought in so many black people into the film union. But prior to him, there was like no black Teamster bosses. There was no blacks in the scenic, the art direction and all these different departments. But he slammed open those doors for so many people. And now I see that the people that he got into the unions, they're children. So the next generations are all profiting off of the great salaries and the great union work that's been available, since he's come along. Yeah. So I've been working as a scenic painter in New Orleans. But when Katrina hit, my sons were really young, and films take so long to film that I wasn't able to go back and work into films when I got back to New York. So I got into the teaching, and then I really like it. I really love it because my aunt was a teacher, art teacher, who really got me involved in it. Aunt Aressa Moore is her name. She worked with the PAL. She would run all like the block parties in the summer, like the art parts, like big art parties for kids in the summer, the block parties. So to me, she was like a star.
Mm.
She would go in the village because she was a hippie, and like I mentioned off camera earlier, she would lead me in the Apollo Theater. In the Apollo Theater in the 70s and early 70s, top acts like James Brown, Al Green, Aretha Franklin would perform 2 and 3 times a day. That's before the Jackson 5 came along and Madison Square Garden and Radio City just opened up and said, look, this is way too much money to turn down. I would imagine that's how it happened, but that's when the change happened. But I was lucky enough to sit in, almost like a daycare center. I would sit in the Apollo Theater and watch these shows, act after act. And that formed my art aesthetic more than in art school, because I never took an art class. My aunt put it in me that you should follow the highest thought, not follow the rules of what people say you should do, what colors should go next to each other,
Mm-hmm.
or what composition you should create. So that if you follow God, people will see the God in it, and it can uplift people, And yeah.
So you basically use your innate talent in order to create the things that you created. How did you get to Harvard? How did you get that position?
Oh wow, yeah. Dina Anderson. She worked in the Harvard Art Department. She saw my mural in Harlem, Planet Harlem,
Mm-hmm.
which is the popular mural that I did, and I've been doing it out of pocket for 12 years now, like maintaining it, adding images, adding great Harlemites on there.
And what's the address of that mural? So that,
Yes, sir. It's on Corner Social. That's the name of the place. It's the wall where it's
Mhm.
on, popular restaurant, and it's 321 Malcolm X.
Mhm.
321 Malcolm X, and it's on the corner 126 and Malcolm X Boulevard.
Mhm.
If you take the 2 or the 3 train, you come right outside and it's right there.
Right there.
Yeah, you can't miss it. It's been a really huge tourist attraction.
Yeah. Yeah.
And New York Magazine has said it's one of the top places to visit in the city. So something that came out of my imagination and I'm financing it out of my pocket has become, kind of a phenomenon for Harlem. To see
So you got an offer to do some classes in Harlem. I mean, in Harvard.
Yeah, but because of that mural,
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of the students had questions like, "Hey, how can you create something without knowing the outcome?"
Right.
That for me, I'm a jazz man. I'm like New Orleans, and I love soul. I was a street ball player, and realizing that James Brown and Michael Jackson, Prince, like my favorites, couldn't read music, so I never felt really bad about creating art without knowing all the rules of art.
Right.
So, and I love Prince and Michael Jackson's music and James Brown, but they're channeling from somewhere else. So that's the channel that I don't compromise with. And that's what students actually want to learn about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which is kind of difficult to teach. Your connection to God is such a personal one. But a lot of students want to just really sell art or somebody push them towards it, or they think it's cool. But me, I got it in such a way that I can't tarnish that connection. And that's what the students at Harvard want to understand. But I think it's just being so passionate and dedicated to something, knowing what your divine destination is, and following that and letting that mission become your religion. And I tell my students as well, let your vision become your religion. Like be obedient to that vision that God put in your mind so that you can actually attain it, so you can achieve it, and develop the discipline to manifest it in real time. So, so that's what I taught at Harvard. Or worked. We did a bunch of workshops, and I worked with students from MIT as well as Will Roberts to create the first augmented reality mural on the campus of Harvard University. So we developed an app where you put your phone up to it, and then it becomes activated, it becomes animated. And what I did, the Wampanoag tribe, which is the tribe that that Harvard University kicked them off their land and established Harvard University, dedicated to the Wampanoag tribe. And so when you put up the app, you hear some of the music from the tribe, some of the chants, you see some of the dances. So it's like an animated journey. So the mural is not just 2D, with the addition of the augmented reality element component, it becomes animated.
Wow.
Yeah, and just like the image you see up here right now, the Harlem anime.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, you see a young child with the goggles on, pointing to Malcolm X because he can't believe that Malcolm X is actually responding to him in real time. But he's in a world, an immersive world. You can see I created Harlem in the background as a fictitious fantasy.
And it's interesting that you say that because a number of people that I've had on the show have talked about ways that are right around the corner, if not here already, as you have mentioned, to bring Harlem alive for tourists. If there's a location that has not, like the Savoy. The Savoy was a place where swing dance developed, but it's just a plaque there now. But with augmented AI and all of those other types of components, you could actually make that come alive again.
Exactly.
And it's a fine example of what you're saying. So young people will begin to I guess is living art. I guess you can the interface with the art is something that is going into another future way of dealing with your craft.
Most definitely, and it's an immersive experience, and you get more joy from having the experience. You can actually have the experience.
Right.
Walk in front of the Savoy, put your phone up, and see actually people doing the Lindy Hop. Maybe they could be 15 feet tall. So it's just all in amazement. Maybe the music and all. So you could actually get into those worlds. It's just experiential is what people are really loving now. The fact that you can get these experiences, and digital technology accelerates those possibilities.
And when you do work like this, do you, I suppose you do, foresee how it will come out when it's animated?
Yeah, I designed an animation based on some of the history, or all the history of, say for example, Paul Robeson, just to dig really, really deep into his history. You see the Wikipedia stuff, that's kind of the surface thing, but to dig deep down and to see what Paul Robeson was actually doing, so I can really reflect, because I want our next generations to understand that his father was so-called a slave, escaped slave, that he was taught his son to preach sermons at 12 years old, that his mother was a mixed-race school teacher, and that he won 4 years in a row the debate. He was a debate champion 4 years in a row at Columbia University when there was only 1 or 3 black students. Like, how did he learn that knowledge? And the languages and all his accomplishments. So I have him break it down in the short dialogue, how as a humanitarian he selected to travel the world to combine all the poor people's voices into song, and just a lot of information that isn't regularly available. I want people to see that deeper level of actually what he was doing with the skills that God has given him. Yeah, so it's not generic.
Interesting. What are some of the projects you have in the works for the future? What are some of the things you're looking at doing?
Yeah, this one right here is it's it's kind of number one, the Harlem anime. Anime, a lot of kids from all cultures. Everybody loves the word anime. Everybody loves the world of anime. But
Hmm.
bringing Harlem characters, which are actually superheroes, to see what they accomplished. Because
Hmm.
Harlem at one point was a safe place in America to go to exercise your genius. It was the safest place, be it politics, music, finance, business, whatever it was. Harlem was the place. That's why the mural Planet Harlem keeps increasing. I get emails all the time. How come this person's not on there? They're from Harlem. How come this person's not on there? Yeah. So it's a really nice celebration, and it's a really strong energy coming off the mural. So this summer, celebrate the 12th anniversary, July 20th, we're gonna have a Planet Harlem Day.
Hmm.
It's gonna be like a festival, so we're gonna have music in front of it and lights. So it's gonna be a lot of fun.
Is that going to be on 126th Street?
Yes, sir. Exact. Right in front of the mural, we'll have the street blocked off so people can dance, have fun, and get to know some of the characters and some of the great icons that are on the mural.
And what's the date of that?
July 20th. July
Okay,
20th.
we
Yeah.
have to have you back to
Oh,
talk about
please.
that.
Oh, most definitely. Most definitely. I would love to. I appreciate.
Now, you do work with young people in this area. What? Talk a little bit about that.
Sure, sure. Yeah, I have what I do self-actualization portraits. People project themselves into the future or the past, like cuz I work with senior citizens as well. I work with elementary schools right now, I'm working with high schools. I'm working with at-risk teenagers in high school, I work with incarcerated teenagers, and I'm working with refugee orphans from
Hmm.
Central America and Africa. And it's
And
really
you also dealing with some of the inmates in who's
yeah,
incarcerated.
yes, yes.
How did you start doing that?
Yeah, it's an organization that has that connection. So if you want to teach people um, that are, in certain conditions or areas, certain people you prefer to work with, you work with certain companies. Certain companies have those connections in there. So I tap into there because I feel like this mission. I feel like God really put me here to teach and to build with people. That one speech from Adam Clayton Powell Jr. When I was kind of sad, I was an art teacher. I'm like, man, I'm just an art teacher. I came from New Orleans. Now I'm in New York struggling. But Adam Clayton Powell Jr. said, God puts in your hand, right? He puts the answer in your hand. Infinity is in your hand. What's in your hand right now? I said, well, I'm an art teacher. How far can I take being an art teacher?
Hmm.
Instead of running away from it, maybe this is a way I can tap into more people. Like, what am I saying? What am I teaching? They love what I'm saying. Maybe I could go out further and touch more people with it.
Hmm.
I just felt that was something that I shouldn't turn away from, but really
Hmm.
jump in and to accept. And it's opened a lot of doors for me, spiritually and socially as well.
If someone want to contact you or commission you, how would they reach you?
Yeah, I have email address or phone number. My phone number, I still have my New Orleans phone number. It's 504-782-2000.
Hmm.
504-782-2000.
And Paul, you have a website?
Yes, I do. PaulDeo.com.
Hmm.
PaulDeo.com. And it's Paul Dio on LinkedIn. It's Paul Dio on Instagram. Paul Dio on Facebook.
Hmm.
The name PaulDeo.
Yeah. So uh, in July you have a celebration. How long has that mural been up again? Seems like it's forever, but
Yeah, 12 years. 12 years.
12 years.
Yeah. Yeah, and the thing is, like when I first did it, it was a mural competition. So I won the mural competition. But in one night I got the invite. So I threw something together, submitted it, and somehow I got more votes than other people, other contenders.
Hmm.
Because my dad really got behind it. He was in a senior facility, and he really
Hmm.
got everybody involved into hitting it up. So I got more votes than everyone, and then I really took it on to do something more experimental, something fun, something out of my heart. And Anahi, she ran a corner social at the time, and she said, "Yeah, do whatever you want," which was a huge blessing. So I could show people the vibe that I felt for Harlem growing up,
Mm-hmm.
how I felt as a little kid, watching James Brown hit the stage, sweating, ready to put in work, watching Aretha Franklin, man, take me to a whole nother dimension. So I'm able to share that vibe, that frequency, through this mural. And so that was a true blessing. And so it's going to be 12 years. It's 20 years to become a landmark, but there are ways to expedite that process
Mm-hmm.
that I'm definitely looking into right now. But I
Yeah.
hope I can make it July 20th. July 20th.
Well, it's amazing, and you did all of the upkeep out of pocket. Huh?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Mhm.
Yeah. It's just like, I see that as just, my mission. So it's beyond human thought, human opinion. Because I remember creating the mural, there were some artists coming up, "Hey, man, you're not getting paid enough to do that." Because I think they gave me like $300 to do the mural. So I'm like, man, this is my billboard. This is my business card. This is me showing what I can do. So some people want you, "Hey, man, wait your turn. People like you." So at one day, I said, "Wait my turn. What if I'm not on the list?" How long am I supposed to wait, man? So I jumped in on it and, really expressed how I felt. At night, I just say my prayers and new ideas would come in and I'd place them on there, some of the great icons. And it's been a really super positive response. Yeah.
Where are some of the other locations that you have murals?
Riverbank State Park,
Mm-hmm.
Soon to be Harlem Hospital. Yeah, I developed a really, really nice one for Harlem Hospital,
Mm-hmm.
featuring Martin Luther King, Dr.
The
King.
one on Harlem Hospital, where is that exactly?
Yeah, it's going to go into the mural pavilion with the pandemic because it was commissioned like right at the end of 2019.
Yeah,
We're working on it.
Muriel Fediati, wonderful doctor. And you were saying after, where was the other one?
Riverbank State Park.
Riverbank. Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's by the sprinklers. Yeah.
Now, was that a state commission that got that?
Yeah, it was a commission from the Department of Environmental Protection.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, they wanted to, finance the mural, which tells the story of how the water gets circulated from the Hudson River. So we did that as part of the mural and told the story of, how the park was established. It was established through the Community Board 9, District 9, really standing up for the community and demanding that they have a park. If they were going to have a water filtration system in their neighborhood, they wanted to have that park in its place.
Yeah,
so,
that was a rough battle, but
oh wow, you remember it?
yeah, and there's still some issues as it relates to the sewage smell when it's real hot.
Right. I agree.
But Paul, there's a yin and yang of everything. You might have come this way based on some severe times, but you've definitely made your mark. And as you were saying, your business card can be seen wherever people go. You have one of the biggest studios in New York, right?
Right. Most definitely. Yeah. It's been a blessing, man. I thank God in everything I do, and I want God to just really shine through me. That's why it's hard to take on a compliment.
Uh-huh.
I feel I'm really just channeling the thoughts that are coming through me, which are infinite. So the creativity is not going to stop. So I can just love every breath.
Well, now that people see you when they go by 126th Street, Malcolm X Boulevard, they'll know who you are now. They'll see the face behind the work, or over at Riverside State Park.
Yeah.
That is good to allow for people to know who you are and a little bit about your story and your journey. And Harlem Anime, that's the future. So you're tapping into some new generations of people. I sometimes I think about even my daughter. My daughter now, she's 21, but she came into a world um, that was like science fiction to me when I was growing up. With the phones and all of the technology. When I was growing up, that was future stuff, science fiction stuff. But
Right.
kids, now are born into stuff, and it's important to keep up with that momentum because there's spirit and consciousness there, and you've been able to do that pivot, my brother. I'm glad to have you on the show. We have to have you back, especially for the celebration to let people know
Yeah.
what's going on.
Please
But
do.
thanks again for sharing your story and some of the things that you've been doing. And I'm glad that people can see who you are. So now when they said Paul did that. Take care, my brother, and thank you for being on the show.
Thank you, brother Tony. Yo, I appreciate your show. Appreciate what you're doing. It's so necessary. And it's been
Well, as they say, it takes a number of us to make things happen. It's a family.
it's definitely.
You take care, and we'll be talking to you soon.
Okay. Thank you, brother.
All right.
Peace.
So that pretty much brings us to the end of this uh, show. I think that, again, I shouldn't say I think, I know, to have these opportunities to record individuals who have done and do and will be doing wonderful things, not only for the village of Harlem, but the Harlems throughout the world, is a wonderful experience. So uh, I hope that those who are able to see some of the urbanology shows will be able to appreciate some of the things that I have been able to see or experience uh, and explore for over 77 in June, 77 years. That's it sounds kind of like wow, you know. Thank goodness I've been blessed. And I've been blessed to be here. I'd like to thank Soul City, Matt, and Jazz and the team for providing this platform. And hope to see you next week. Take care. Have a good day.
This is Kia Rogers, and you're listening to Urbanology with my dad, Tony Rogers, on WHCR 90.3 FM New York.